webinar. I am your host today. I'm going to be introducing you to RPR's broker tools. I am joined by, we're both logged in as RPR webinars. I'm joined by Laurie, who will be here answering questions in the background. She's waving at everyone. I do have a poll that I wanted to start with. The first question I want to ask everyone, have you ever been introduced to RPR before today? I know this was the fourth webinar in a series of webinars. The first three were geared towards agents. So I'm curious who's participated in RPR webinars already. Looks like we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it 5 more seconds to end the poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it looks like the results, I'll share the results. 42% have never been introduced before to RPR before. So good, exciting. I'm excited to introduce you to RPR. Go ahead and stop sharing that and close that window. I have a brief agenda of what we're going to cover. I'm going to try to keep this to 45 minutes. I know that we allocated an hour, but I know that you are all busy, you're multitasking, you have so much going on. I'm going to do my best to keep this to the high notes, right? Kind of looking at RPR from that 20,000 foot view. We're going to talk about what RPR is. I'm going to transition to how RPR helps agents, helps your associates close more business. Again, we're just going to talk about the top ways agents use RPR. I'll transition again to the broker tools and also introduce some of the resources that I want you to be familiar with as you start hopefully encouraging your agents to get on board with RPR. And then of course we'll have a formal Q&A session. But if you have questions during the session, don't wait to ask them to the end. Go ahead and send them using the Zoom Q&A, in the Zoom control bar, there's a Q&A section. Feel free to submit the question. I'll do my best to answer those during, or Laurie will answer those as we move along. So right off the bat, I always like to begin with kind of what is RPR? First of all, RPR stands for Realtors Property Resource. That's the name of the company. That is the name of the platform. We call it RPR for short. A Realtors Property Resource is exactly what this database is. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with databases, right? Your MLS system is a listing database, and we use multiple databases in our business. Think of RPR as just this ginormous database. It's a national database that's made up of hundreds of parcel related data, real estate information. It's all aggregated at the parcel level. There's over 170 million records. All of this information for both on and off market properties aggregated at that parcel so that you have this comprehensive database that allows you to research properties. We are wholly owned by the National Association of Realtors. We are built exclusively for Realtors. I always say that you need to be a card-carrying member of the National Association to be able to gain access to RPR, and it's already included in member dues. There's no additional charge to Realtors to use the platform. There's no additional charge to brokers to use RPR and to enroll in those broker tools. It is entirely member benefit. And I always, I can't stress that enough, is that this is something that the membership is paying for. It's a value add in their business. It's something they get from those membership dues, and we want them to be as successful as possible. And then last, but of course not least, there is no consumer access to RPR. It is entirely designed to keep the realtor the most informed about a property and keep that realtor as the market expert. In today's age, consumers can go online and they think that they know more than we do. And I say we because I too am a realtor, but that's just not the case when a realtor is using RPR. RPR is fully accessible through a desktop version. You simply visit www.narrpr.com. Maybe Laura, you can go ahead and type that in the chat window for everyone. Again, that's www.narrpr.com, but it's also fully accessible through a mobile app. And all of the data available within RPR is nice and neatly packaged into reports that can be created in PDFs and then distributed to buyers and sellers. I'm going to say the top uses of RPR are to search, and we're going to touch more on this, but are to think about using this database as a resource to search and research properties, but again, both on and off market properties, a tool to evaluate properties, and a tool to generate reports. And that last point of all of this data being packaged nice and neat into these reports is really going to help you educate consumers in the marketplace. So probably one of the most important questions I get is, well, okay, you've got this big database of all kinds of data. What data would I expect to find? You say you have hundreds of data sources. What would I expect to find? Remember, we have data for over 170 million parcels across the country. And again, it is a national database. You have access to all of those parcels. We have millions of tax records. We have public record data. We have mortgage data, deed information. We have default records that come directly from the courthouse and inform you if a property is facing foreclosure or maybe pre-foreclosure. We have billions of photos and valuations, and the list goes on and on. Think about RPRs having public record data and integrated MLS data for MLS Partners, and having this vast repertoire of data available. Now, it's an interesting point what I just brought up. I mentioned MLS Partners. We have, in the last 10 years, had to go MLS by MLS by MLS to partner with individual MLSs, and that partnership entails a licensing agreement. We have the licensing agreements, those MLSs agree to feed their MLS data into RPR, which is then aggregated into that parcel record so that those realtors that belong to those MLSs can see their MLS data. As of today, 94% of all realtors nationally, that's just over 1.3 million realtors, have their MLS data fully integrated into the RPR platform. In South Carolina, there are just a couple MLSs that may not have their MLS data. You may have heard this from your agents that have participated in previous webinars. More than happy to discuss that. The perception is, oh, if my MLS data is not in there, there's no value to me. That couldn't be further from the truth. Remember, RPR is a public record database. So whether the data, the sold data is coming from the MLS or whether it's coming from public records, it's going to be inside the RPR platform. It's such a vast database that includes data that's so beneficial to researching, again, off-market properties and helping agents acquire new listings and accessing neighborhood data and accessing school information that's not reliant upon MLS data. Speaking of MLS coverage, though, there are nearly 1.4 million active residential listings in the RPR system. That's almost 95% of all inventory nationally in this database. That said, I don't want to set any expectation that RPR is a national MLS. It's not. I'm going to repeat that. It is not a national MLS. The objective is making sure that realtors have one database, one resource, one place to go to research a property, whether it's on or off market. And if it's an on market property, having that MLS data integrated at that one place, again, to create greater efficiencies. Now, the reality is that most MLSs are sharing their data with members of other MLSs. So the reality is that you may be able to access active residential listing inventory through RPR, but I don't want to set that as expected. But the reality is that we do have the largest data share amongst MLSs, especially important in areas that are like contiguous areas. Now, it would take me forever to go through a list of all of the features and tools and data sets. I really hope to impress you with, you know, what we've done with all of the data that's been aggregated into the platform. Some of my favorites from a practical standpoint include something called the historical listing comparison tool, which enables a realtor to access all historical listings for a particular property and be able to see and compare those listings side by side, right? Something that, you know, if you go into an MLS system, you'd have to go one by one by one. Another great data point that, I mean, I'm in Florida, and I assume, I would think that in South Carolina, flood plains would be a big issue as well. We've integrated FEMA flood data, and you can actually use a heat map to show which areas are higher risk than others, and then be able to print that data and make it available within a presentation. So there, I could go on and on. I just want you to kind of get a glimpse of what you would expect to find. This might be a great slide to take a picture of, but of course we're recording this session, and it might be a great slide to come back to. Before I transition now to an agent section, I do have another question. Let me figure out how to get to my poll here. I'm going to go to agent usage. I'm going to ask the audience. Well, maybe I should have waited till the very end. How likely are you to encourage your agents to use RPR? Let's go ahead and hold off until the end. Let's end that poll. We'll come back around to it. Okay. So before we launch that poll, I want to stress that that something that we enjoy and appreciate the most at RPR is when we hear about all of the what we call wow moments, right? These are those moments where an agent is shouting from the rooftops the success that they had with RPR, whether it's I used RPR to get a new listing, or I used RPR to get a price reduction, or sometimes it's really just that aha moment, right? It's for those of you that have been in a training position, or, you know, since this is a broker audience, I know that you can literally see that light bulb go off in someone's head when they get it, right? So I want you, as we spend the next 15 minutes talking about how an agent would use RPR, I want you to think about those wow moments, right? So I'm going to introduce you to a few wow moments. I talked earlier about how the top uses of RPR, again, the top features, using RPR to search and research. And a great example of this is Nicole Nicolay. God, that is just hard to say. Nicole Nicolay, who's an agent in Livermore, California, and her partner, Robin. I'm sorry, Robin, I can't think of Robin's last name off the top of my head. They, as a team, love the RPR search tools because it helps them really, what they feel is solidify a client, really establish that rapport and deliver the right properties at the right time. They use features like drive time and distance search. We have the feature within the search and the mapping capability of being able to either drop a pin into a map and say, hey, locate all the properties within a 15-minute drive of this particular location. And that the distance and the time to travel is entirely subjective. You could select any time with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I just threw 15 minutes out there. But being able to really hone in, see on a map all of the areas that would meet all the areas that would meet that criteria, and then be able to search within those areas. Another big one, school searches, right? This is data that sometimes the MLSs have it, other times they don't. We know that school data and being able to search by school or buy within a school zone is probably up there in terms of importance when it comes to a buyer, especially a buyer that has school-age children or a buyer that's concerned about resale value. We have the ability to search either by school district or using mapping tools, be able to identify and pinpoint where schools are located, and then be able to provide very powerful reports that we'll talk about in a few moments. Another feature that I know Robin and her partner use a lot of the time is something called a buyer's tour. Now, a buyer's tour is a presentation that you would create in advance of meeting a buyer and actually touring properties, right? I'll never forget Robin telling me the story of dropping the kids off at soccer and then having left the report, you know, the printouts of all of the properties that she was showing on the printer at home and having to go meet her buyer in the Starbucks parking lot, and literally sitting in the parking lot, pulls up the RPR Mobile app, identifies which property she's showing, adds it to the buyer tour, uses the share feature from her mobile app to text it to that buyer before he's able to pull into the parking lot. And they just use that as the quote unquote presentation or tour. They thought she had spent hours on it. Little did they know that it was just a result of her forgetting the printouts. And I'm sure we can all relate to that since we're so busy in our business. So that's just one wow moment. Another wow moment, this is a broker owner who is reliant upon RPR to the data, not just from a property, a knowledge standpoint, but from a market activity standpoint and valuation tools that help her in face-to-face meetings with potential sellers and with her existing homeowners or existing sellers. Or if not meet face-to-face, you know, obviously we're still dealing with COVID in many markets and sellers are skeptical of inviting you to the dining table, but RPR reports are very easy to present electronically, whether they're created in PDF format and shared, or whether you're hosting a Zoom meeting just like this and going through the data with, you know, step by step or page by page with a potential seller. So I'm going to show you an example. I have this is the RPR Desktop. All I've done here is typed in an address, right? This is literally a property that's off market, and maybe I'm preparing to go on a listing presentation. I'm just going to enter the address into the search field. I'm going to type search, and it's going to pull up that property. It's going to show me, and you can see that it's off market. It's going to give me a wealth of information, all of that aggregated data that I talked about at the beginning of, you know, how we're data aggregators. Going to show you how that data is displayed and how one of your realtors might be able to research and be the property expert on a property even before they walk in the door to that listing presentation. There's the RVM, which is an estimate of value. We'll talk about that in just a moment. We have basic facts about the property. We have some pricing information. We have a map view of the property. Now, if the property's been listed in the last 2 years, that default photo will be the photo from the MLS, that primary photo from the MLS. Otherwise, it's going to be a Google Street View photo, but you have the ability to add your own photos. If you're creating a presentation and you've already driven by and snapped a photo, you could upload that here. And again, I'm just showing you, I just want to go through this fairly quick, but I want you to see the depth of data. We have homeowner facts, home facts, the ability for you to correct or add data that may be missing. For example, this property is missing a bedroom count, but if you know that it's a 4-bedroom, add the number 4, click save, and now that your reports and your account is going to reflect the accurate data. Median estimated home value. So you're seeing how we're starting to analyze the market conditions and analyze the properties, interior details, exterior details. Now, obviously this is an off-market property and the data here is coming from public records. But once we have integrated MLS data these sections might be more robust. We have location details. As I just scroll down, and you'll see additional details, school information, legal description of the property, mortgage records, deeds, any distressed properties that may, or distressed data that may exist on the property. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to switch tabs. I'm going to go over to the history tab. The very first thing we see here is a histogram that shows us for the last 5 years any sales or financing activity. It's just a graphical presentation of data of sales and financing, anything you should be knowledgeable about. We have prior sales transactions. Now, something to point out, this is a complete historical view of this parcel. So I could look at all of the historical public record views. I could look at the historical listing record views. And a good example of this, I had a house that I sold a couple years ago. I was the 4th owner of the property. When I put it in the MLS to sell it, it was the very first time that house had been in the MLS. Again, I was the 4th owner. Every time it changed hands, it was a for sale by owner. So I had the ability to see all historical prior transactions, and that's something that maybe you can't necessarily get through the MLS, or you would have to access multiple databases. We've just made it easier for you. Tax information, again, historical tax information, historical mortgage record data, historical distressed information. I don't have any example on this screen, but my father recently relocated from Texas to Florida, and as he was in the home buying process, we looked at this data and identified that the seller had purchased the property as a foreclosure 5 years earlier. That wasn't anything disclosed in the current listing. So it prompted him to ask the agent, well, what improved, what was the condition 5 years ago? Just looking at things that he should be familiar with or aware of. He was able to get a list of all of the improvements that they made. So again, it's looking at that complete historical view and having more information maybe than it's just to put your realtor in the best position possible, to be the most knowledgeable market and property expert. I just quickly moved over to the charts tab. The charts tab, just a wealth of charts and graphs regarding sales volume, listing price, sales prices, inventory of distressed properties, pricing per square foot, and anything that we can analyze about the property, about the market, making those comparisons, again, making this data available to you. Now, let me introduce you to Greg Center. I love his wow moment. It is, he talks, and I could probably spend 20 minutes talking about Greg Center, but his favorite feature of RPR is the mobile app. And he had downloaded the mobile app in a training class, hadn't really played with it, found himself at an open house that was very busy, and he was losing buyers. They were leaving the property before he could actually stop and talk to them. And of course, we wanted, our whole goal of having open houses is to meet buyers and not only sell the property, but to sell buyers' properties. So he caught this couple as they were walking out the door, opened his mobile app, noticed the house across the street had just gone on the market, and he asked them if they had interest in learning more about it. So they said, of course, right? And there's no sign out in front, pulled them back into the property, created a report, sent it to them from his mobile app through text to their phone. So now he had their phone information, their phone number, because he sent it through text. He was able to get them information within seconds. They viewed the property with him. Not only did he help them write an offer on that $1 million property across the street, excuse me, but he also listed 2 waterfront lots that they needed to sell. So he was able to turn kind of this Hail Mary of using his RPR mobile app into a huge wow moment of securing over $3 million in business. again, just by having information to that information at his fingertips. So the next wow moment that I want to kind of talk about is how an agent would use RPR from a valuation standpoint. Remember, that's one of the top uses. We use RPR to evaluate properties. There's a couple tools. First and foremost, every parcel, every property, whether it's on or off market, is going to have an estimated value. We refer to this as the RVM, the Realtor Valuation Model. The Realtor Valuation Model is different than a lot of those public-facing estimates of value, right, an AVM, because it's using public record data and, here's the key, MLS data to arrive at a value. And those AVMs, those public-facing AVMs aren't using MLS data. MLS data is much more accurate. It's much more timely. It's much more complete. And using data that we control in conjunction with public record data is going to give us a more accurate evaluation, okay, or I should say a more accurate value on a property. Every month, we update those RVMs. We will always disclose the date that RVM was last updated, and there's always a link that shows which properties were used by our algorithm to arrive at that value. And the idea is there's a confidence score. We'll always share how confident we are that if this property were to sell today, it's going to sell plus or minus 10% of that RVM value. And again, there's that confidence score. The whole premise behind this RVM is to help your agent have more informed pricing discussions. Now, keep in mind, at the end of the day, it's still an algorithm, right? It's still, a computer can't walk through the door to see the condition of the property. Therefore, there are tools that help the realtor arrive at the best value that they want to discuss with a buyer or a seller. First thing is refining the value. Using the Refine Value tab, there are 4 different ways that you can refine value. You can refine by correcting public facts or basic facts about the property. Remember, the property that we looked at before didn't have a bedroom count. Just simply correcting bedroom count may have an overall, and may be able to increase the value of the property. Home improvements. Hey, how many times do you run into a seller that says, I just put in a brand new kitchen, I put in a pool, I remodeled a bathroom, I put a new roof on, and they expect to pull every dollar back out that they put in over the last 50 years. You can, we've added 3 dozen of the most common home improvements. This is through data collected and aggregated from Hanley Wood. They're the publishers of Remodeler magazine. You simply select the home improvement, enter the date that it was completed and the idea of what the cost was at the time. It will give you today's depreciated value. And this varies by zip code. So that's how precise this estimate is. The third way that you can refine values is by needed improvements. My husband and I bought a new house a couple years ago. It needed a new roof. We wanted to factor that into the offer. So needing, we added that as a needed improvement. It took $20,000 off. And then finally, market and home conditions. I always like to say that your realtors know the market the best. They're going to be able to pull up an address or pull up in front of an address and list all the pros and cons and all the things that property has going for it, and be able to say, well, it's maybe not going to get the highest value because it backs up to a main road, or, market conditions are so hot in this neighborhood that I should be able to price it up a little bit. It's by using these refinement tools that you can actually refine that original estimate and have a better price, I should say, to be able to go in and have an informed discussion with the seller. The other valuation tool is a CMA, or what we refer to as a comp analysis. There are 2 different versions of a comp analysis. I'm not going to go through every step, but it's a very simple wizard. It walks you through step by step. There's a quick and out the door approach, or there's a more of a sales comparison analysis, which is a much, much more detailed approach. It's what our appraiser members of NAR use to the biggest difference between the two is the ability to manually adjust for improvements of a property. So you'd simply go step by step, confirm the home facts, search for comps. The beauty here is that you can include transactions that took place outside of the MLS. Again, remember that's public record data, so you can choose to include those. You can make adjustments, whether they're simple adjustments using a slider or manual adjustments. And then you'll be presented with a comp analysis value, and you have the ability to edit not just that value, but the range, and choose what you want to be displayed. So for example, when I was listing properties, I would never go in and say, oh, Mr. Seller, your house is worth $549,270. I would leave that blank, and I would go in with a range. So RPR is completely customizable to what a realtor wants to put in front of their customer. And then lastly, talking about putting in front of a customer are those reports. And I said this earlier, we have a suite of reports. It's again, the third top use of RPR is generating these beautiful, neat, clean, professional reports to educate buyers or sellers and consumers. This is an example of the seller's report. We have over 3 million reports created annually by realtors. And again, there are 8 different templates, anything from a neighborhood report to a school report to a market activity report. I would encourage you to take a look at the various reports within RPR, because they're great not just to educate buyers or inform buyers details of a property, but they're great tools to take into listing presentations. I can't tell you how many times I heard an agent say they won a listing just because they looked like they had done the most research by creating a seller's report. They can be generated in PDF format, or they can be emailed directly from the platform, and they can be created in those mobile devices and shared, and then even shared to social media. They're stored in RPR accounts for 30 days. So now let me go ahead and launch that second poll. Okay, I jumped the gun a little bit earlier. I'm gonna go ahead and relaunch poll 2. How likely are you to encourage your agents to use RPR? I want to hear from you. How encouraged are you to, how likely are you to encourage your agents to use RPR? We'll give it another 10 seconds. You either want your agents using RPR and you're going to take leadership and ownership of introducing them. You're going to say you're okay with them using it, but you're really not going to go out of your way to promote it, or you don't see the value at all. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results. Looks like we've got 83% of you say that you want your agents using RPR. That's awesome. So let me go ahead and stop sharing that. Let's talk about you now. Okay, we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about the broker tools and what I want you to do when we wrap up this webinar. I want to make sure that there's something in it for you. I mean, obviously agents are the primary users of RPR, but there are some tools, what we refer to as the broker tool set, that keeps the company at the center of RPR. The broker tool set is made up of 5 components. And this is something that the brokerage would enroll in. I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm going to say it again, there is no cost to enroll, but this benefits the brokerage right off the bat. So it's number 1, it's branding. Okay, so ensuring that every page of RPR is branded to you, and every report that leaves your agent's desks is branded to the brokerage and not branded to RPR. We're not trying to be a household name. Number 2, custom pages. I'm going to show you this in just a moment. Number 3, affiliated service modules, giving you the ability to promote those ancillary services that you might have partnerships with, or that you might own, like mortgage and title and home warranty, just serving as a reminder that those services exist. The 4th is market data tool. And then finally, the AVM widget, which is something for your consumer facing website. So from a branding standpoint, As soon as you enroll in Broker Tools, you'll submit to us your brokerage's logo. And right away, all of the agents within your company will see your company logo that will appear throughout the RPR Desktop version, the mobile app, on the login page to RPR, but I think most important, those reports, anything that leaves the agent's desk, all branded to the company. We talked about custom pages a moment ago. Now, agents have the ability to add their own custom content to their RPR reports. But by enrolling in Broker Tools, the broker has the ability to add company content that is then added to all of the agents' reports, right? These might be, it might include pages such as why list with us, or why use us, or maybe a history. If your brokerage is founded in a significant over 100-year history in the local marketplace, obviously that's something that you tout in your business. Maybe you want to include company stats or market statistics about why you're the leader in the local marketplace. Anything that's really going to promote the company, you can add as custom content, and again, it would appear within the agent reports. The fourth component is market data tool. The market data tool, this is like a performance analytics program for some of you might be enroll in or have licenses for programs like Brokermetrics, tools that show you how your company is performing. A lot of MLSs will offer this. The benefit of RPR's data tool is that you have the ability to, for many of you probably have operations across multiple MLSs, and we roll up all MLSs under as your MLS footprint within the data tool. So you can see how your company is performing as a whole across the entire region and all MLSs that you participate in, or you can filter several different ways. Another great aspect of the data tool is that it's what we refer to as push-pull technology, so that you can have the data readily available, or you can filter it to pull out what it is that you want to report on specifically, and we have scheduled reporting as well. Affiliated service modules, again, I mentioned earlier, for those of you that have ancillary services, you want to, these are the folks that are always looking for FaceTime with the agents. These are, the services that want to be as front and center with the agents, to remind them to be promoting their services to buyers and sellers. So we simply just have placement within RPR on the search result pages and on the property detail pages that promote those ancillary services. You can have unlimited number of service modules for various services. You can have them targeted by office. For example, this contact John Smith is the designated title rep for just this one particular East Side office. Mary Johnson might be on the North Side, and she would appear to the agents for just the North Side office. So these can be targeted. All you have to do is just submit to us those service modules. And then the last component that I want to talk about is what we refer to as the broker AVM. This is my baby. This is what I specialize in. It's in a nutshell, it's a consumer-friendly version of valuation, of an AVM, so that you can position a what is my home worth on your consumer-facing website. Now, I do want to warn you, the AVM is different than the RVM I spent so much time talking about earlier. The RVM is behind that closed door, right? You need to be a realtor to be able to access the RVM. That's there for pricing discussions with consumers. The AVM, this is really, it's candy, it's eye candy. It can be used for lead generation. It's content for your website. It's a way for you to capture interest from and keep somebody on your website versus losing them because they went to another, because they found a property that they liked and they went to another site to see what the true value of that property is. This is kind of what the AVM looks like. It's available as a turnkey customizable widget. You get to choose the layout. Do you want a vertical view or a horizontal view? You can choose what data points are included, but I do want to stress that just because it's turnkey, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no programming resources required. You will request access to the AVM. We will give you access. You'll log into your account and you will set it up so that it will look like this on your website. You can choose the color scheme. You can customize that, so that it aesthetically it fits within the layout of your website. But we don't give you the form to collect the address. So you're going to need a programmer or a developer or somebody who's going to make it visible on the front end on your website, and then write a piece of code that takes that address that was captured. Hey, I'm interested in 123 Main Street. It's going to take that address, 123 Main Street, and pass it to our widget, to our script. That's going to then call the result. This right here is the result. That's what we're making available to you. I have a short 30-minute webinar that I deliver on the AVM alone that goes into detail about what's required from a programming standpoint. Here's another example. This is a company called Tierra Antigua. They're out west. Notice that they have here, what is my home worth? Okay, under their seller section. The seller fills out a simple form. They type in the address, and then it returns the value, or what I called the result. One more example, and then we'll wrap this up. This is a company called Leela Delman. I believe it's Leela Delman. They're out of New England. They have the single most used AVM widget of thousands of companies that have implemented our broker AVM. They get hundreds of thousands of calls, server calls from their website, because how they've marketed their What's My Home Worth feature. Right on the homepage of their website, they have What's My Home Worth. The visitor simply enters the address, clicks Get Your Estimate, and not only do they have our valuation, but they choose to display it side by side with another estimate. And the concept here is, hey, there's a lot of different sources out there giving you different values. Which one is the most accurate? And the call to action here is, hey, do you want to know what the real value is? Contact us. So there's the call to action, and it helps generate them leads from the brokerage, which they then convert into listings. So here's that lead generation form that they have. So that's the broker tools in a nutshell. So my call to action to you is enroll in broker tools. There's really, again, there's no cost. There's no reason why you shouldn't enroll in broker tools. And to do so, you're simply going to visit our blog. It's at blog.narrpr.com. Laurie, would you mind typing that into the chat field? blog.narrpr.com. And when you get to the blog, let me fast forward here for a sec. Under the industry segments section at the very top, you'll see industry segments. Just hover your cursor over industry segments. You'll see broker owners, and there's a link, Get Started with Broker Toolset. There's a simple online form that you'll complete. And then there's a spreadsheet that you'll need to download, complete, and then upload that spreadsheet to the blog along with your company logo. And then we'll go ahead and we will enroll you in broker tools. Now, while you're at that blog, again, blog.narrpr.com, under broker owners, Get Started with Broker Toolset. While you're at that blog, check out our learning options. 83% of you said that, hey, I'm going to support RPR. I'm going to encourage my agents to use RPR. We have some fantastic resources that are available for you to help promote RPR. First and foremost, under learning, we have the Learning Center that has live webinars and watch now webinars. And my favorite are tutorials. These are lesson-based tutorials that are, there might be 7 or 8 short 2-minute videos that make up a complete lesson on how to use RPR at an open house. And we have these for every topic of RPR. We have ebooks that you can download and even print. And then we have quick start guides. These are one-sheet PDFs that you can download and distribute to your agents that are step-by-step instructions on this is how you create an RPR account. This is how you upload or how you complete your profile. This is how you create a report. This is how you search for properties, and it walks you through step by step. Now, for trainers, for those of you that are fortunate enough to have trainers in your organizations, or you have designated your designated go-to folks, you know, those people that you're going to voluntold that they're going to train RPR internally. We do have a certification process. You can find all the information about that on the blog as well. And then finally, again, under industry segments for broker owners, there's a link here to, let me go back right here, brokerage sales meeting materials. We have 7 residential sales meeting modules and 6 commercial sales meeting modules that have various videos that are maybe 5 to 6 minutes in length that you can show in your sales meetings, and help get them acclimated to the RPR platform. Those quick start guides, their corresponding quick start guides are also going to be available. You'll see them on the page as well. And I would just say, hey, you know, for your next few meetings, why not include a few minutes of RPR in your discussion, watch a video collectively. If that meeting is through a Zoom or GoToWebinar, however you have to meet these days, why not share a video and just, you know, just start spoon feeding the agents the material and get them started in the right direction. So on that note, I think I have one last poll for you. So we got to keep everyone on your toes, and I know that we're out of time. Let me go ahead and launch this poll for those of you that are still with me. Back to the broker tools, okay? The broker tool set that I encourage everyone to enroll in. What do you see as the greatest value to your organization, to your brokerage? And this, you can choose multiple options here, right? So what of those 5 tools that I introduced to you, what did you see as the greatest value? Is it branding, custom pages, the data tool, ancillary services, or AVM widget? We're going to go 5 more seconds. Get those votes in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to end the poll. Let me share the results. 83% branding, 92% data tool. Oh my gosh. 42% custom pages. This is really cool. 8% ancillary services and 25% AVM widget. Make sure when you enroll in broker tools on that spreadsheet, you're going to tell us exactly which components you want to take advantage of. Okay. And we'll get you set up the right way. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing. Let me close this. I want to thank you all for your participation today. We're at 2:48. I went 3 minutes longer than I said I was going to go. So I appreciate everyone sticking with me. Laurie, were there any questions that were fielded that I should answer? Oops, forgive me.
No, Lisa, I think everybody's up to date. And folks, don't forget to check the chat for all of the links that Lisa mentioned.
Thank you so much. Now, I hope everyone knows this was recorded. We're going to make sure we get everyone a recorded version. I know I talked very fast and we covered a lot of information, but I certainly hope that you felt that it was worth your time, and you can go back to all of the other activity going on in your world. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.